Fire Radio.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Size Up by National Fire Radio. Because what you do off the job matters. And I don't know, at some point, somebody's probably going to get tired of me starting it out that way, but I still like the intro and I'm still sticking with it because it really does matter. And I feel like guest after guest, I am understanding more about what you could be doing off the job that matters. And I think it's interesting because every guest comes on the show kind of for a specific reason, or let's say with an agenda, whatever words we want to use to describe that. But I feel like in our hour that we spend together, we learn so much more about them and what they do off the job that's beyond what maybe their topic was that they came to talk about. And today's guest is, I think, going to exactly be like that because we were talking right before he came on, or right before I hit the record button, and this will be his first podcast ever, even though he's done a lot of news articles about it, or news interviews about his organization. But one of the things that he pointed out was how informal what it is I do here on the Size Up is. And I think a lot of podcast hosts do the same thing, where you just want to keep it a conversation, right? And that's where we're going to learn the most about each other, what it is we do, how we work on the job, how we're off the job, whatever it is. And that's what keeps me going with this. So it's pretty cool. You guys are going to hear it again. We met at FDIC in a very interesting way, though, because I was actually pitching the booth next to his to come on the show. And he just kind of got in my face after I was finished with pitching them. I don't know if I was on his radar, or like he had overheard me talking to them and was like, yo, I'm gonna take this little dude with a mohawk down here and make sure he hears my story and how it goes. But Kevin from Project Fire Buddies, man, what's going on today? Is that how it happened? Was that a planned ambush on me or no?
A little bit. Thanks for having me on, Pip. Like I said, it's my first one, so I'm looking forward to doing more of that, just bullshitting back and forth between me and you. I think it's a cool way to discuss the things going on. I mean, it was a little calculated, I'd say. My plan was actually to stop up at your guys' booth, but you guys always look so busy talking on the radio. So I saw a chance as you were walking by, and I think my words were, "Hey Pip, what's it going to take to get me on the show to talk about my organization?" You started asking about it, so it was a natural conversation there. I felt like it was a cool way to start it off, and then you reached out afterwards. It was really fun to get that response, and I'm excited to be on the show.
Yeah, I think it's crazy too because the folks I was talking to in the booth next to you, I think I lost their card, so I'm kind of like, oh man, I didn't hear from them yet, and they didn't hear from me, type thing. But you know that happens when you're at a really busy show, and I'll have to look more into that. But I think something like that simple type intro is kind of the theme post FDIC still for a lot of these episodes that I'm recording with folks that either I caught up with, like Torres out there, or people that I met for the first time that you just have to take that leap. You know what I mean? Like, what's it going to take to get me on the show? Ask, right? Isn't that just that simple?
Yeah, a little bit. It was for me. I realized being in first FDIC for the first time, our organization has grown now to the point where we want to start branching out. And I think the biggest thing was it was a little more cutthroat than I expected it to be. You want to get out and you want to get your word out to these people, and you're competing with a lot of people to try and have that space, have that time with and people's time is so valuable. So trying to get that time and capture that small amount of time and use it as efficiently as possible to get your word out. I mean, it was an eye-opening experience for sure.
It is for real cutthroat. Like, I'm not even kidding you folks that are listening. Like, when it comes to the business end of whatever it is you do at a trade show, it is totally cutthroat. There's no denying that. And my first time out there with 555 was like 8 or 9 years ago. And I, like you, for the first time, had no idea what I was getting myself into, and then was like, holy cow. Like, and when you're no pun intended here, but when you're the little guy, right, let's say, and almost all of us are the little guys because we're competing against some of the largest companies in the fire service for people's time. It's really hard. And you really hit the nail on the head. People's time there is valuable, right? Everybody has a plan for what they want to do. And your organization or my podcast are not necessarily in that plan for a lot of people. But those are the people you really want to interact with, right?
For sure, and I think to me, I like the grassroots type of stuff. I think it's the little guys teaming up is the way to go sometimes. And I don't think you're a little podcast. I don't think we're a little organization, but in the grand scheme of that big conference, I mean, it's kind of like the All Star game, right? Like you're taking the best parts from all around the country and putting them all together, and you have to try and prove how big you really are. But that wasn't the whole goal going there, but once you get there and you realize that you need to start making partnerships and stuff, it was definitely more of a business experience for me, which is completely out of my realm, my normal realm, right? I mean, I'm a fireman at heart. I like to help kids. I like to talk to people and being there and shaking hands and kissing babies and all that kind of stuff. And not literally, but yeah, what I mean.
Oh
It
no,
was
it almost is literally like trust you me. Maybe it's not kissing babies, but it's giving little kids high fives and stickers like crazy because that again. Listen, I'd like hey, here's stickers, here's stickers. I have kids myself; they love stickers when they were at that age. But I can tell you on a business side of you, a great way to talk to someone is if they are there with their kids and you give their kids a sticker. Well, then that has their parents' ear and hey, here, buddy, here's my sticker. And then you look up at mom and dad and say, hey, you ever heard of the Size Up podcast or you ever heard of Project Fire Buddies? Now you get that elevator pitch, right?
yeah,
And you get that couple, like maybe a minute, 60 seconds to explain what your organization is or business is, what it is you do, and how they can support you. And again, first time at FDIC, no clue what that was.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, it was definitely it was a learning experience for me. Like I said, I'm not on the business side typically, so when I was trying to talk to people, I'd watch their demeanors. I mean, there's a science behind all of it. It was really, really interesting to see that side of it. On top of more importantly, getting the organization out there and really reaching as many people as we could. And I'm looking forward to talking about that in a little bit here. But um, it was a
Right.
really
And,
cool
and you
experience.
said it too.
I'm
You
sorry,
said it
go ahead.
too, right? You're just a fireman, right? And that I say it all the time. I'm just a fireman who did some stuff that was different, right? And there is a science behind all of this. People go to college to learn how to do these things. They get master's degrees in marketing and business, and there's just so many different layers. And you're like, yeah, I like to go to fires.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head, man. I got a high school education, and that's it. And taking classes and stuff in the fire service taught me so many things to apply to it, how I can draw parallels between the two. But it definitely was definitely strange. I'm not a suit and tie kind of guy. You get me in a pair of work jeans, work boots, and put a tool in my hand. Like that's where I find my normalcy.
Which is a cool thing too, because we don't have to be in the suit and tie in what it is we do in the fire service outside of being a firefighter, right? Because mostly we're talking with firefighters. Um, I've dabbled work, let's say, in the fitness industry, and part of what I did in the fitness industry was talk to other fitness people. So again, that's the realm that it's great for us to stay in. It does get a little scary when you do have to put on that suit and tie and go talk to folks that maybe aren't on the level that you are in a business or an organization. But being a firefighter prepares us for the unknown. So what do? You put your suit and tie on, you get some new tie lessons, and you go and do that, right?
Yeah, and then you take the rules of attention to detail you take from the job and say if I'm going to tie a tie, I'm going to tie it damn well. And I think again that's why I appreciate you having me on the podcast because I can sit here and I can go back and forth and say yeah we're just bullshitting and it's a normal conversation. It's part of my French, but I think that's to me this is right in my wheelhouse. I'll sit here and bullshit with you all day.
Pro tip too, I'll give you another pro tip too for the firefighters out there when you have to tie a tie, especially if you're into rope rescue. Go online and get some crazy knot that you can tie because you know how to tie knots that are going to save your life someday. So there's no reason you can't follow the instructions on the Google machine to give you this weird looking knot. What that does is it gives people, just a little something different. They're like, oh, I've never seen that knot before. And then I'm always honest and I'm like, oh, I got it off the Google machine. I didn't just make it up or anything like that. But it just gives you that little bit of comfortability, right? That may change it if you are nervous to have something really easy to talk about. Like, yeah, we tie knots at work all the time. I figured I'd try something fancy. I spent an hour in front of the mirror doing this, but hey, it worked. Trust me,
Yeah,
I could save your life faster.
to piggyback off of that, the other pro tip I think would be the old adage: if you can't tie a knot, tie a lot. Probably doesn't work so much with suit and tie, right?
That one is not going to work. Don't go with that one at all. Just go with the Google machine. Trust me, there's some great. I'm not even kidding you, and this is how the podcast goes. But I wear bow ties a lot when I go out, like when we get fancy dress, as my kids used to call it. Um, and I've probably been wearing bow ties, let's say, for like, man, whatever Hurricane Sandy was. So good Lord, 10 years now or so, plus 10 years, 12 years. But I watch the same man's video on YouTube every single time I tie a bow tie because it just makes me feel comfortable to have his like face and voice in the background while I'm tying a knot that I don't do very often. So it's my little secret about bow ties, let's say.
Yeah, sure. I can't say I know anything about bow ties, but I can appreciate having the same mentor teach you the same thing over and over again. That'll resonate as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't even know if he still makes videos. It's such an old video. I've never looked at any of his other stuff. I just watched the tie a bow tie video. Like if you Google it, he's still in the tops of it. So, if you're
Yeah,
looking to tie a bow tie, Google it and you're in right there. But
I'll keep
so
that in mind.
let's hear a little bit about you, Kevin, before we really get into Project Fire Buddies. Like how did you kind of get into the emergency services? What do you have going on there and that kind of a thing?
I appreciate you asking that. I don't like to talk about myself much, but I'll keep it short. I got out of high school. I realized I wanted to be in the fire service and paramedic. So I went straight into paramedic school. I started with EMT, paramedic school, then went to the fire academy. Around us, it's you have to be 21 to test. So I got all that stuff done before I was 21 and just started testing. My father was a firefighter, volunteer for some time. And then he had to choose between continuing his career or taking his business, and he spent his life being an electrician. Got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and came home sometimes 7, 8 o'clock at night just to provide for his family. And I think that was the best role model he could have put on for me. My mom was the brains behind the business and did all the money work with it. So it was just I grew up in a blue collar family, and I wanted to do a blue collar job, but I always wanted to help people. I got out of fire academy. I was 21 years old. Got hired part time, so I've been doing this for about 14 years now. Um, I work in a smaller town, Palos Park, Illinois. I would actually, my buddy, my lieutenant, he's my mentor as well. He actually knew Mike Torres, so I thought it was kind of interesting that you had him on the show not too long ago. But kind of got through that whole thing with the career. I got involved in volunteering for MDA, helping the kids down at their camp down in Bloomington, Illinois. And then from there, started a family, and I'm preaching to the choir here. I know you got some rugrats running around. I got two. I got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And, I love them both to death.
I don't think I can call them rugrats when they're bigger than me now. So
Yeah, they kind of evolve out of that stage, right? They start getting to the older ages and teenage years. And I'm not looking forward to that, especially with my daughter. But my
yeah, good
beautiful
luck with
wife.
that, man. Two boys is a win. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. I grew up with two brothers, so having a girl was a whole new adventure in itself. Um, but my beautiful wife, she handles everything at home, and she does her little part time jobs and stuff. And then once I started a family, I kind of got away from the volunteering with MDA, just because life got busy, and my daughter had some medical problems early on, and I know that I can touch on that at another time, but. That all kind of brought me back to doing more charitable work. My buddy Jeff, who had worked with me for a while, became the second chapter of Project Fire Buddies, and reached out to me and said, "Hey, I know you used to do all kinds of work with MDA. Are you looking to do any kind of charitable work?" And to me, it was the right time to get back into it. It kind of fell into that perfect timing. So, I've done a lot
See,
of
I
that.
love it. I love it when you're like, I don't really know what I have to talk about. And you said so many things there that like, all right, I'm like, hold on, we got to stop because I didn't want to interrupt you because you were flowing. But now we're going to jump back a little bit because we got to talk about some of the things you just kind of glazed over, right? Where like, you have to be 21 to test where you are, like to test for a career job or.
Yeah, so most of the departments around us are all mostly career. We have some volunteer departments and some part-time departments still, but our state statute, most of the departments you have to be 21 to be hired career. So you can get started part time at some places earlier than that. But for the most part, it was, yeah, you had to be 21. So I kind of had that grace period between 18 and 21 to kind of get everything done to go after it.
And you can get your certs in between then, though, and like volunteer and things, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I was a cadet for a while through another town neighboring my department, and kind of got some of the training there. Got my first live fire experience and stuff with that. But to actually work and get your feet on the back step, it was, you had to be 21 really to get started. So
See, I'm not necessarily opposed to that because I've talked on other shows about starting at 16, and I don't really know if when I was 16 I should have been seeing the things that I was kind of seeing on the EMS side, looking
sure.
at it now. And so even at 18, you know, it's great. You're 18, you're technically an adult, let's say, but having those couple extra years of growth in between there, it could speak a lot to how you do over your career. I didn't get hired till I was 25, but I do feel like maybe that year 21 could be a good way to start. So it's the first time I think I've ever heard anyone say that to me, that you had to be 21 in your state to do that. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, you could work on the private ambulances, privatized ambulances around us do mostly, nursing home transports and stuff. They don't have a lot of 911 contracts. And to get onto those at an early age, I was 19 when I started riding the ambulance as a paramedic, working for one of those companies. And like you said, it's very strange that I had gotten out of high school at 18. I went through paramedics EMT school, and a part of being in EMT school was that you had to go to your clinicals at the hospital. And I was seeing kids that I went to high school with as patients in the hospital, some for some very, strange things. And for me to have to switch from high school where everything was kind of roses and daisies, everybody's doing great. You got your high
Nice
school
and easy.
football games, your glee clubs and all that kind of stuff. And then a real dose of the real world,
Bro,
seeing that stuff.
bro, it's so hard. High school's so hard. Middle school's so hard, bro. You don't listen. This is my life, bro. I gotta go to school today. I'm like, dude, it's the 8th grade. You get straight A's. Like, do you even study? Just go. Like, it's not hard. Wait,
Yeah,
just wait, buddy.
your biggest concern was, the girl on the hallway, if she liked you or not. Now it was, it was dose of reality. I was seeing a girl I went to high school with was delivering a baby, and I was doing the clinical at the same time. It was just very strange to have to
Yeah.
transfer from that, And like you said, those years of maturity between 18 and 21 to get you prepared for what you're going to see, I think definitely does make a little bit of a difference. You're still moldable in those late teenage years.
Yeah, and I do think there's something to be said for like trying to get into it like as a cadet, and a lot of programs out there and things that are teaching you. It's just there's probably no right answer to this, and that you and I are not figuring it out on today's episode of the Size Up for sure. But it's just one of those things to again point out, to folks that you are kind of immature. I knew some medics that were medics before they were 21, and they're like, yeah, I could RSI someone, but I can't buy a beer.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. My paramedic graduation
and
day
so
was
for my listeners who are not in the emergency service, rapid sequence intubation is basically where when you need to intubate someone, paralyze them with narcotics and drugs, and then you intubate them and provide an airway for them. So it's the tube down your throat type thing. It's a really big deal, and it is a very dangerous medical procedure that they trust paramedics to do in the back of an ambulance or in a helicopter for that matter, or on the side of the highway. And it's a really big deal. Is that it's the easiest way I can say it, right? It's a really big deal. It's a really big procedure you can do. Can you guys RSI in Illinois?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at the time, we could do everything up to a surgical crack, at least so what we were being taught in medic school. So, being 8 months removed from prom, I was able to do those procedures, which is, it was kind of funny to think about. But yeah, when I was graduating paramedic school, they had to feed me beers through the window of the bar because I couldn't get in. I was 21. I was 20 years old at the time. So,
That didn't happen. Anyone listening, that really didn't. That didn't happen. I
yes,
guarantee.
yeah,
It's
hopefully,
just he's making that up right now.
hopefully Oakland PD ain't listening to this, but yeah, it's very strange, but yeah, those years are definitely, it was I was 19 years old when I handled my first traumatic arrest, and the traumatic arrest was another 19-year-old. So to me, it affected me a little bit differently. To this day, I remember what his name is. I'll still drive around sometimes in the town that it happened in and see the in remembrance stickers of this guy. And for some reason, that call stuck with me because I was 19 years old and he was 19, and his last words were spent in my presence. And like to this day, I'll still think about that kind of stuff. And it's just part of the gig, right? I mean, you're expected to see these things. You're expected to deal with them, and it does take a certain amount of mental capacity to handle that kind of stuff. And I've always been a big proponent of that, especially when we have new guys come in. If they have a call, like, "Hey, you good?" And then we'll talk about it, and I'll share my story so they understand that there's a certain amount of we're going all over the place. That's why I love this podcast. We're going all over with it, but there's a certain
We're
amount
not going all over the place though, because this is what matters, right? And the reason, so you said it right there, like you still remember his name, you still remember, you see the stickers, but those things are important because for all too long we were told to repress those memories, right? That you don't want to remember that. If you think of, the origins of PTSD in World War One, shell shock, World War II, Vietnam era, those folks were always told like, no, that happened, you did it, you're better off moving on, don't think about it. And what we know now is that by doing exactly what you did, telling that young kid, look, I remember this. I tell people all the time, I had a very traumatic murder scene that I was on, and I still see the victim's face in my dreams or in other people. But the fact that I'm telling people that and telling younger guys on the job, this is going to happen, it's okay. You have to process it. You have to talk about it. Not just like, oh no, if I see that face, I'm weak, or anything like that. It's a huge part of this. And it's exactly, what I want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it's acceptance at that point, right? I mean, these things are going to happen. You are going to see these things. It's just whether or not you're going to allow them to affect how you operate. Are you going to let it affect your health, your fitness, or are you going to let it affect how you operate on at work? Are you going to use those things? Unfortunately, we even see some of that where people use those things for excuses for their behaviors, and it's how do you embrace it? How do you accept it? And how do you move on from it? Because it's going to happen to everybody. Garbage man can go down the street and find a body in a dumpster that he's going to have to live with that. And then I think we are different in our profession because we're exposed to that stuff more. But I don't think that makes us any more special than anybody either. I think I know maybe I'm not a popular opinion on that, but I think it's important that we embrace it, we understand it, we accept it, and we learn to use that to learn rather than to hinder us and to really affect how we operate as a father, as a fireman, as a person in society, right?
Yeah, because it's going to affect all of those things. Like it's going to affect your life. There is no doubt in anyone's mind at this point that this career we've chosen to do will affect us throughout our lives. It just depends on how you handle it. And you're one of the first people I heard that actually said publicly, people use it as an excuse for their bad behaviors, right? Like, look, man, seeing that murder scene or that 19-year-old die did not make you drink a case of beer that night. But drinking a case of beer made you forget about that happening for sure, 100%. But what we're learning now is that there's so many better things you can do to make that situation better than drink a case of beer.
And just like everything else, I spoke about this during the COVID time a lot with our group of guys that, we signed up to be on the front lines of this stuff, right? When we wanted to become firemen, we wanted to make a difference in the world and help people. We signed up for the bad days too, and sometimes that's not the sexy thing, the having to pull a kid out of a fire. Sometimes it's being on the front lines of a pandemic, which is not sexy at all when you're wearing a hazmat suit and going into these EMS calls. It's sometimes
totally not sexy.
Right, exactly. My wife did not get excited when I showed her pictures of that, but it's the same thing. I think with dealing with some of the bad calls, like the murder scenes and stuff. I think we signed up to handle this so that the general public doesn't have to. And I think that's the part that and to me, it's I hate to say it this way, it's earning our paycheck. Right? I mean, that's what we signed up for. It doesn't make us any less human, though. And that's the important part. I
Sure.
think when I talk about accepting that stuff, embracing that stuff, I think it's important that we do those things and we use it for good rather than for bad.
Well, I mean, that 2020 time, and then things got really rough where I was, like really rough. And it got to the point where I was like, guys, consider us lucky. We get to come to work, right? As much as all this is horrible, what we're doing, what we're being exposed to, how every shift you come in, there's a new form of protection because the one that you wore the last shift apparently didn't work or wasn't good enough type thing. But just think about the fact, and listen, we all couldn't eat dinner together anymore. I'm in a larger house, so we had dinner times and benches were removed and chairs were put in, and it's just everything was there to try to protect us, which is good, and that made it bad. But what it really came down to is we can still do this. We can still stand 6 feet apart on the bay floor for 24 hours and be together, where there's so many people who are losing their jobs or can't go to their jobs or losing this connection. We have that. So we have to find that positive in it.
Yeah, yeah, and then, we've talked for a couple minutes now about a lot of the negative stuff, and kind of circling this around, even with Fire Buddies, like we found that this is a good way for a lot of these guys to cope with these different things. Their bad calls, their bad things happening in their home life, or dealing with the stresses of COVID or whatever new things happening in the fire service. Like, bringing positivity to the world is a good way to balance a lot of that stuff out.
Okay, so pro tip, it's the host's job to do the segue into the other part.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
No, I'm messing. I'm totally messing with you, man. I'm totally firehouse messing with you because you just perfectly segued into. You're like, oh, this is my first podcast, and now I'm gonna be like, I'm googling this dude's name that's spelled differently. It's gonna be like 18 podcasts. Like you probably host your own podcast on the side, and I just totally fell for it. It's my first time thing, but you're exactly right. Right? No, we need these positive outlets to kind of keep us going. And it is the perfect segue to say, like, listen, we're not going to talk about COVID this whole time and our times there. We need to talk about Project Fire Buddies and what it is you do and how rewarding that is, right? So let's hear a little bit about how Project Fire Buddies got started and kind of how you got into it.
Sure. Like I talked about a little bit before, Project Fire Buddies started in a department called Oak Forest. It's a neighboring town of mine, by a guy named Kurt DeGroot. He responded to a call of a child that had a medical emergency that was diagnosed with cancer. After the call was over, he was kind of talking with his crew and said, I want to do something more. We're just showing up to this kid's bad days. And as they were showing up to more and more of his bad days, like, what can we do more for the kid? What can we do to not just be there with the lights and sirens? Every other kid sees lights and sirens as a parade and it's a good day, but this kid is seeing lights and sirens and it's a bad day. So how can we create more good days for this kid? So they decided to start buying gifts with their own money. Kurt won't admit to it, but I mean, he was dipping into his personal savings during Christmas time to make sure that he was putting himself in his own financial burden to start to help this kid out. And that's really when it was born. Another guy he worked with, Ryan Ballard, was as our COO, and both of them started it up. They got big enough chapter in Oak Forest and said, let's spread. So they talked to Jeff Gorowski out of Oak Lawn Fire Department. They were the second chapter, and he was the one that reached out to me after knowing that I did work, charitable work in the past. Said, we're going to grow this thing, man. This thing's going to be huge. We want to help kids. And I'm like, yeah, sign me up. I'm all in. So Payless, my department, became the third chapter, and here we are about 4 or 5 years later from the actual start, but from the spread, about 3 years. We're over 100 chapters, and we're in 7 different states. And our mission, our goal is just to help kids, bring positivity to them that are fighting cancer or critical illnesses, terminal illnesses. We want to make more good days for these kids, which has always been a really big.
It's such a great line too.
Yeah, that was
like more good days for these kids. Like that. That's just like that's going to resonate. Like, and it's probably going to be the title of this podcast as I write it down. But that story that you tell about going to a call and having a sick kid or repeatedly going to a call with the same child is not uncommon because it happens to so many fire departments. It happens to every fire department for the most part if you're running EMS calls for sure. And so many fire departments help out with that kid, but they don't decide to go to the next step of saying, let's help a lot of kids. So I don't know if you know your founder's kind of backstory on that, but what really resonated with him to make him want to take that next step? Because there had to be like an aha moment.
I think it started with, and Kurt would probably tell the story better, but I think it started with just one kid, and then they had another kid in town that they were starting to respond to regularly, and then another kid in town. Obviously, that drew attention from the town, it drew attention from the media. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you watched that show Shark Tank. You know, a lot of the people say that they had a problem, and then they realized they had a problem. Then they found a solution for it. And they're like, you know what? This solution has to be applied everywhere. Everybody needs this solution. And I think Kurt kind of had that same mentality of we're helping these kids out. Yes, it's drawing attention, but more so it is uplifting these kids, and it is making these kids better. These parents are showing up at the firehouse saying, he beat cancer and he can't stop talking about you guys. And he's like, I've got something here. Damned if I don't go and share it with everybody else. And then you find people that are like minded. And there's groups all over that are like-minded people, but specifically these people that want to do charitable work, or people like myself and Jeff both had children who had medical problems, and that it really resonated with us that we wanted these days to be much better for all these kids that are dealing with the same thing, and the parents too. The parents are dealing with these problems with their kids, and it is stress. I mean, my daughter's medical, I won't bore you with the stories, but my daughter's medical situation, to this day, I still struggle with it. And like I was telling you earlier, my daughter's sick right now. And to me, it is on my mind 90% of the time, with the other 10% of I got to run to Walgreens and make sure I can get whatever I need for her. So for the parents too, these parents need a break from the negativity, and they just want to see their kids smile. So ultimately, I think that's what Kirk kind of did. Going off on a tangent again, I apologize, but I think he
It's
saw
not
a
a
solution
tangent.
to
Stop.
that.
This is the story, man.
Yeah,
This is the story. It's not a tangent. And this is the story that needs to be told, right? Because you pointed out a few things that you don't necessarily always see, right? Like, so when you think Project Fire Buddies and you go on the website, yeah, well, you guys are helping kids with cancer or sick kids with illnesses. But you mentioned that part of the parent end of it, where as a parent, all I want to do is see my kids happy, right? There's nothing worse than seeing your child sick, and to have something very serious that just goes on along or more with it, let's say. So when you guys are able to help out that child and help out that family, it goes so much further than just that one little act, right?
for sure, for sure. I think without getting too deep into it, when I went to the hospital with my daughter, and I had to hand my daughter over at that point. She had been having seizures. I'll give you a quick detail. She had been having seizures, and the first one she had stopped breathing for. So to hold my daughter as she's turning colors, and it's my baby girl. So um, eh, to hand that my child off to somebody else, and somebody to come up to me and be like, we're going to fix this for you. In our line of work, regularly we have to be the answer for everybody else. So for someone to
You're the fixer.
come up to me and we're going to fix this for you, it to these families, bringing positivity to them. I unfortunately don't have the cure for cancer, but if we can bring positivity to them and see their kids smile for the first time in a couple of weeks after all the chemo treatments, or my two fire buddies had heart transplants, so they're regularly in the hospital for 3 months at a time. But they'll send me a picture of them playing with their Nintendo Switch they got from one of our visits, smiling and they're like, you guys created this for us, and that's the mission, right? I mean, the parents are seeing their kids smile, the kids are happy, and like I said, it's almost three or fourfold. The firefighters who are doing it are feeling better too. They may be going through a divorce, or they may be going through you know uh, union trouble at work, or whatever the case might be. It's the positivity that brings everybody back together and centers them again. So really, this mission is about helping kids. making the world a better place, but it's making the world a better place for everyone. And how can you beat that?
And for that kid and their family, right? That is really the key. And it's the same as saying, like, as firefighters, we never want to see someone's house burn or people lose possessions or lives or anything like that. However, we do like to do our job. And one of the reasons we all do this is because we like to be firefighters and we like to put out fires. And you can ask any firefighter in the world, when your fire duty is up, when your shift or your engine, truck, whatever, goes to a lot of fires, morale is up because we're doing our job, right? We're able to talk about it. We're able to learn from it. We're able to grow from it. However, that doesn't always happen. So to give firefighters another reason to have morale up by helping these kids and these families is just another kind of offshoot that, if Kurt thought that was going to happen when he started Project Fire Buddies, the guy's a genius, for sure. But it's just happening, right? When you guys help go see one of the kids with a heart transplant, I'm sure everybody gets back in the rig and is like, well, that was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. They now every single time I show up with the rig, the first thing they do is they come up and they give me a ginormous hug, and my kids do the same thing at home. So if I'm having that effect on them, that we're succeeding, right? These kids they love it. They love seeing us. They know that when we show up, it's going to be some crazy time. I'll bring guys from the firehouse with us, and some of them are goofballs. So they'll wrestle with them, or they'll play with them, or they'll play board games with them. And it all depends on their medical conditions if they're allowed to do that kind of stuff. But whether it's playing Clue or if we're jumping on the trampoline with them and letting them spray us with the fire hose, like these kids love it. And they look forward to it. So it's a really cool mission. It's a really cool thing to see how quickly it's growing, and the kids that we're affecting. We hold a gala every year, and we have these kids show up. And there's this one picture from one of our galas that, if I can find it, I'll send it to you, of this girl, and she's got the feeding tube in her nose, but she's all dressed to the nines, man. I mean, she's dancing and she's having a blast, and like that is the face picture of what our organization is trying to do, is that this kid is going through hell, but she is having a hell of a good time doing it, and like that to me is I'm smiling ear to ear right now talking about it. How do you
I can see it. My wife says this a lot, and it's something that I find to be true too. It's about making memories, right? And you're making memories for these kids. You're making memories for yourselves, for the firefighters that are involved, for their families, and they're positive memories.
Yes,
Because so much of a child with some type of illness life is just, it's not positive. As much as you can try and people can try, that negativity still has to creep in, because not only are they dealing with facing the illness and fighting that back, but they're also facing that uncertain future. And so making these positive memories for them is such something that they are going to remember forever. Their siblings are going to remember forever, right?
absolutely. And we do have cases where we have kids that are diagnosed terminal, and it, in a normal situation, if Fire Buddies hadn't come along, they may not be able to afford to go to Disney World. They may not afford to be able to handle those types of trips or those memories that they want to create with their kids. And unfortunately, with a short amount of time, they may not have that time to do those things. And that's where we want to come in. We don't want the family to say financially we can't do Disney World, so we're never going to get this memory with our child who is unfortunately terminal. To us, it's like hell no. That's not an option. Failure at that point is not an option. We want to make sure that you get that memory, no matter the cost. So anytime that we get a kid, especially that's terminal, like the big thing for us is we throw the book at them, man. You guys want to go to Disney? You guys want to go see Taylor Swift, and she's a hard person to get in contact with, but if we can get you tickets, we're sending you. And those tickets damn near better be real close to the stage. Like that to us is huge. And we have other kids that may not be terminal, but we're still giving them the positivity that they need to continue those battles. These kids are battling these things sometimes for years and years and years. My poor fire buddies are going through transplants. Two transplants in one case. The other one has been fighting rejection for 7 years. And they're constantly in and out of the hospital. They're constantly well, your numbers are down, so you can't really travel because if you get sick, you're going to be in a bad situation. So okay, we'll bring Disney World to you then. We're going to build you we built a fort in the backyard. We built a swing set in the backyard for the one family. And the idea was they can't go to Disney, so let's bring Disney to them. Let's do the best we can to bring that to them. So we had a big, fanfare.
Isn't so? I think too what you're saying, and just side note, this is my third episode in a row where Taylor Swift has been brought up. So, if anybody's listening and she wants to come on the show, I can probably squeeze her in for an episode or so. It's only an hour of her time, but it's three in a row. So I feel like, if you got a hook, the size up's
Yeah,
always looking for guests. So Taylor Swift is more than welcome to come on, even though she's not an emergency responder. We'll make an exception right into that one, right? But I
yeah,
think one of the things that I love that you're doing with Project Fire Buddies, and I can just see the way you're talking about it, because I know how when I was involved with 555, how I lit up when I talked about the folks we were helping and things. But I think one of the keys with it is you're helping the kids in your local community, right? And that's
yeah,
such a big deal.
yeah. Thank you for bringing that up because to me that part is one of the challenges that the fire service has faced for a while too. Is that we like to do philanthropy in our communities. A lot of times we'll go out and raise money for different organizations or different charities, but sometimes we don't see that money go to work. So you get guys that don't buy into it. Guys don't feel passionate about raising money because some of them have the attitude, well, I'm just padding some CEO's pocket somewhere. And to us, that was a big thing, was that we don't want that to be. We want you to raise money and see that money go to work in your own town. You're investing in your own town at that point, which is huge for anybody that works for a department. Um, we full transparency, and not to get businessy on it, but 96 cents of every dollar that's donated to Project Fire Buddies goes to the cause. The 4 cents per dollar has to go towards printing pamphlets and overhead costs to make sure
A
that the organization
website, a social media
website,
page.
yeah, going to the FDIC to try to spread the word. I mean, all these things are costs that are associated with running it, and it's not realistic to say 100 cents of every dollar. And I'm learning that as I'm involved in the organization. But I think it's important that we're going to try and not just beat the gold standard. We're going to blow it out of the water. The gold standard for non-for-profits is 80 cents of every dollar goes towards the cause, with 20 cents going towards salaries and everything else. And our goal is to continue that platinum size, standard of 90 cents to 96 cents of every dollar is going towards the kids, which again is the mission. That's the goal. So to see that money go to work in your own town is huge, and I think that's what makes us different from a lot of other organizations.
Sure. And again, there's loads of organizations out there helping, and you never want to take away from any of them that are doing it, except for the ones that are only putting 40 cents towards their donations and 60 cents of your dollars towards whatever else they want to put it towards. Because, like, you guys must have been eating ramen at FDIC if you're only putting 10 to 4 cents to back into the other end of it is an easy way to put it. And it's such a great thing. And I think for fire departments, we help in our communities. We do whatever we can in our communities. We always go above and beyond, not just on the calls, but the fact that we can help out someone. And I think to have an organization like yours, like say in my department, we found a boy or girl that was in this situation. Sure, we can do some things and we can make their day better and make them smile. But now I know, and a lot of my listeners now know, that there's a parent organization that we can maybe partner with that can help us go a little more above than what we can just do on our own. Because that's a big thing in this whole world, that you need help. People call us because they need help. We could call you because we need help in this situation. And is that kind of how you guys grew to? I'm pretty sure it's over 100 chapters from what I read. Or
Yeah. I think the another a selling point for us is that we did the legwork ahead of time for you. So these chapters that want to do these types of charitable contributions to their towns, their departments, is that a lot of the legwork has to be done up front. You want to become a 501c3. There's all kinds of paperwork and red tape to work yourselves through. If you want to reach out to your schools, you might have to type up a letter to say, hey, this is a resource of who we are, because we can't go cold calling for these kids. because there's HIPAA violations. So us EMS nerds probably understand that a little bit more than some of the other departments. But there's HIPAA laws and stuff that you have to work through. And once you start piling all that, again, not sexy stuff up on top of each other, like it kind of will demoralize people from continuing. And like that was our big thing, is that we wanted the legwork being done. So when the chapter comes on, 95% of what we do as an operation is all done through an app or Google Drive that they literally just have to fill out forms when they go to visit these kids. So there's a documentation of it, but they don't have to type an email. They don't have to do anything really. It's all said and done for them. You guys need a gift for your kid. You fill out the form and it shows up on your door via Amazon. And we try to do all the legwork ahead of time. So these chapters really just have to build the relationships with their families, raise a little bit of money towards their town, and they'll see that work in their own town. It's huge.
And it's such a big thing too, because you said it's not the sexy work, and I know I've seen this, maybe my department, maybe others around me, however, or just hearing stories, but it'll just be like, oh, we want to help that kid, or we want to help that organization, and then that red tape gets rolling and the problems start to mount, and you're like, I just want to help. And a lot of times people then are just like, oh, we'll just throw money at it, right? Here's $500, go do what you want to do, which is always not a bad thing, right? Because everybody kind of needs money. But when you're talking about something like what it is you guys are doing, it's all those extra things you get out of that. The crew feeling better, the family feeling better, the brothers and sisters feeling better. Not the brother and sister firefighters, the brother and sisters of the kids, because all of that kind of goes along with it. And it's just such a great resource. Like I'm stoked to know that it exists, and I'm stoked to be able to maybe help you guys get out there more, kind of moving it forward. So how do we get in touch with you if we're interested in doing something like this?
So obviously our website is the easiest way. www.projectfirebuddies.org is our home website. I mean, we have everything on there, from how you donate to how you become a chapter, how you can get involved with us, what our mission is about, who you're talking to. So we got all of our pictures and all that kind of stuff up, so you can put a face to the name type deal. But that's www.projectfirebuddies.org. We're on Instagram as well as Facebook. And those are the ways that really can get involved. People can contact me. I'm the chief personnel officer over there, so really I deal with all the chapters. And you still got me over there?
Yep, you're good.
Okay.
Little internet blip, but it's okay.
Buffering. I live out in the sticks, so my internet's not always the greatest, but that's basically the easiest way to get in contact with us is through our website. My email is kevyn@projectfirebuddies.org, and that's Kevyn. I had to be difficult, so my name's spelled a little different. But and any chapter that was interested in becoming a chapter could reach out to me. But we have forms on our website as well for people who are interested in volunteering, donating, becoming a chapter. If they have a fire buddy that they want to, a prospective fire buddy, they would fill it out on that website as well. Again, we're on Facebook and Instagram. We're trying to branch out into other social media platforms. And then we also have a store where we sell our what we call swag. And it's our T-shirts, our coffee mugs, and stuff like that, with all the proceeds, again, going right to the cause. And that's www.pfbswag.com, and that's got all of our shirts and stuff. One of our design ladies has been awesome with coming up with all kinds of crazy designs and stuff and limited releases. And she's really driven us to create almost like a solid quality product as well. I mean, people are coming back to buy our t-shirts because they like our t-shirts. Even if they don't like the cause or they don't care enough about the cause, they love our t-shirts. They'll come back for more. But for the most part, everybody loves the cause, and we've never really had any negative feedback with it. We always have good relationships with the public, and we haven't had any really negative feedback on our organization. So again, we did all the parent work, and we really would like to branch out. For anybody that wants to reach out, please reach out to me. Or reach out to www.projectfirebuddies.org, and we'll get you signed up. I mean, we're looking to expand nationwide and reach as many kids as possible.
Which again, too, in today's society, like, look, you're not doing this to make people like you, right? However, it's definitely going to help position your department in a better light in the public when they see you doing things like this because you want to do them, right? And you're sharing this mission that I can tell you're not doing this, for the clicks or the likes or anything like that. And it's just going to be one more thing that, hey, the fire department is helping out in your community. We recently did something in my department with a child who wasn't from our community but was from New Jersey, and we were able to really kind of make his day better, and then um, make him a firefighter within my department. And then months later, we had our annual inspection, and we invited him and his family down again for him to be a part of our inspection because obviously he's a member of our department, right? So
Yeah.
here you go, months later, this department remembering you. And I know, some of the things I've seen with Project Fire Buddies is like having the folks into the firehouse for dinner and things like that. So, just those little things really do matter and add up.
Yeah, I think one of the ones that stands out for me is one of our executive officers on our board. Um, he had a child who was terminal, and before that child ultimately passed away, uh, he was able to have a formal badge pinning ceremony in Class A's. Family, everybody showed up and had a formal, became a firefighter for that department. It was pinned by his fire buddy, and his family was all in. And it was, I mean, to me, I dreamed of that day for 23 years, and for that kid that was his dream. He wanted that dream, and
Yeah.
he accomplished it. He accomplished it, not us. We didn't do it for him. He earned it by battling. He fought like hell without swearing too much because I wanted to add 4 or 5 swear words in there just to say how much he fought. I mean, this kid fought like hell, and he earned every ounce of that badge pinning ceremony and becoming an honorary firefighter, which was the coolest thing. And like you said, it's about making those memories. He's a part of that department. He is part of our buddy's family. I appreciate hearing that there are people out there doing that stuff. So thank you, Pip, for taking that kid and
Oh,
doing
I
that.
had nothing. I just participated. It was my department, my director, other folks. I'm not even gonna. I will never take credit for something I didn't do, but I got to participate and go that day and be there for the things we did for him. So it was pretty cool. But no, I was merely riding on the coattails of others for that one. But it's cool to know that, right? And like I said, I think there are lots of departments out there who are doing this, and to know that you can have the support of such a larger organization to maybe just get you that one more little thing, or just that next step, getting your message out there is what it's all about, man. And it was great to get bamboozled by you at FDIC to get you on the podcast here and get it going. So, like I said, I'm excited to see if we're maybe where we could go in the future together and maybe help out with some Project Fire Buddies projects, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, well, we're gonna send you all kinds of swag. If you feel like putting that shirt on every once in a while you're doing your stuff, we'd appreciate it, man. Because again,
Dude, we could.
these are the organic ways we try to spread, right? I'm not trying to put billboards up on the highway. I want to talk to firemen. I'm a fireman at heart. I want to talk to you like you're a fireman, and you can get on the same level. You can buy in when you're buying from basically a salesman that's of the same type. So I really appreciate having us on, man. This is cool. This is fun to do.
What I tell you too, because we're at the 53-minute mark now, right? Where I'm like, see, we knocked it out, man. There's no problems here at all. We just roll through the conversation. So it's really been awesome having you, but I can't let you leave without hitting you with a size up 10 that have nothing to do with Project Fire Buddies. So it's all about you now. Now this is your part of this podcast. More.
I failed a lot in high school, so you give me a quiz right now. I don't know how I'll do. We'll see.
You should be able to get these. I mean, I wrote them. They're firemen. They're firemen questions, and I too failed a lot in high school. Like, I always make the joke like firefighters, no English, no math. Like that's why I'm here. Like no English, no math. I got it, man. And people are like, what about pump calculations? And I'm like, I didn't drive the engine very much.
Sounds good, man.
And even then, we keep the numbers simple. There's lines and cheat codes right next to you, so we're okay with that.
Damn right.
Awesome, man. All right, here we go. The size up 10 questions that are supposed to go quick and never do. So, beach or mountains?
Oh, beach all day, man. I like to relax. That's my relaxation place, the beach. Honeymoon to
Those are
Hawaii.
lakes, though. I'm just gonna let you know the beaches you go to are lakes. So
Yeah, yeah. There ain't much. If I had lake as an option, it would. I go fishing a lot, so if I had the option of
okay,
lake, I'd
we
take
can
lake.
go that. Maybe I'll add that one in the future now. Help some folks
Awesome.
out.
Yeah, then lake would be
Which one are you doing, man?
beach
Which
for
one are
sure.
you doing? A night out or a night in?
Oh, okay. Night in. Yeah, you ask anybody I work with, I'm not a very social guy, so night in is usually my deal. I love my wife. I got my couple close friends, and I'm a night in kind of guy.
Nice. Give everyone a movie that they need to watch.
My one buddy from work's gonna love me for saying this. I like Good Will Hunting. I really enjoyed Good Will.
Classic, man.
That was a good movie. I thought I really enjoyed the performances in it. It was a movie I watched as I was coming out. We talked about those ages between 18 and 21. As I was coming out of paramedic school, um, a lot of my friends were off at college, and for some reason I watched that movie one night and it really resonated with me. So yeah, that's gonna be the movie I go with, and it's a shout out to one of my buddies at work. He'll enjoy that when he hears that.
It's good stuff, man. How about them apples? That's a big Firehouse line. How
How
about
about
them
them
apples?
apples, right?
Actually, another big Firehouse line, and this is why this takes forever, is also like when he's like ski trip, like when he's talking about working in the McDonald's drive-through. Well, my family's going on a ski trip, and he just
Yep.
said ski trip all the time. That comes up at work all the like. Someone will just be like, "This is Blarney and his ski trip."
Yep. Got to go see About a Girl, right? That's
Nope,
a good
that's
movie.
it, man. I love it. All right, cross country road trip. Who is your celebrity co-pilot going to be?
Oh man, I was not prepared for this. I always enjoyed, like I said, Robin Williams was good. Tom Hanks was good as far as acting and stuff goes in their movies. I think they do a good job. If I had to spend, a cross country trip though, John Bernthal. He's dude's a straight shooter, man, and I have nothing but respect for people who are straight shooters that talk about the hard shit and then not have to, dance around it. Dude's a straight shooter, and man, it would be cool to talk with him for
I
seven, eight
think I think I know who he is, but what is he in? Let me
He
make sure
was
I'm thinking
in
of the right person.
he was in Wolf of Wall Street. He was in Walking Dead. He
Okay,
played the
I know
Punisher.
who you mean. Wolf of Wall Street, another great movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's good. That's one of my wife's favorites, actually. Believe it or not.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Do you make your bed every day?
No, no. I'm a detail oriented guy, but that is one place I'm very I slack off on. My wife does that regularly, so I love her to death.
No
She's probably
worries, no
hearing me in the
worries.
other room laughing right now.
Give us a book everybody needs to read.
Book everybody needs to read. Um, if it's firefighter related, the book of Andrew Fredericks. If you're an engine guy, I really enjoyed reading that. Um, I like reading a lot of different military books and stuff. Hal Moore from the Vietnam era. But
Yeah, yep.
if I had to me, it's the old good book, right? Right now, I'm making my way through. I'm a relatively religious guy. I'm making my way through the Bible, and I've been trying to find. You read books, right? You read books to try and find answers on different things, and when it comes to um, you know questions, start questioning your own moral and faith and stuff like that. As I went through a rough patch, I started doing some of that stuff, and what better way to find answers than read a book? So I figured, well, I'll make it from cover to cover and see what I take from it. My grandfather did it, and I want to continue that tradition as well. So I'm going to pick the good book, the old Bible.
Good on you, man. For first person in all these episodes to pick that one. So it's kind of I didn't know. Didn't think I'd make it this long without that one. So there we go. I guess maybe it's the caliber of my guests in the
I
past.
don't like
I'll have to
the
up
Bible
them a
deep,
little
but
bit.
yeah, I mean if you're asking me that question, that's the one I'm going for.
Dude, no. Again, it's. I'll use a Jocko term. It's that dichotomy because you just told me your wife's favorite movie is The Wolf of Wall Street, and you're like, but I'm getting through the Bible right now too, so it's okay to kind of you need a little bit of everything in your life, right? Like I'm okay with that. if you picked for the movie, if you were like the Ten Commandments, and then you're like, I'm reading the Bible, it'd be like you need to do some other stuff, man. You just need to maybe do some other stuff out there.
That's
All right,
right.
a
You
couple
gotta,
more questions. Which one are you taking? The
yes, sir.
highways or the back roads?
Oh, back roads. I kind of divulged it before. I live out in the sticks. I teach down in Indiana every year, and I try to avoid the expressway at all costs. So for me, it's about a 3 hour drive if I take the expressway. It's about 4 hours if I take the back roads. But man, on the back roads, you ain't got nobody to bother you, and there's no frustration. I work in the suburbs, so the traffic there can get to me pretty quickly. People in the passing lane, they kind of holding up everybody. That kind of stuff gets to me pretty quick. So back roads, man, you really don't got anybody to bother you. So back roads is definitely the way to go.
Nice. Give me a bucket list place you want to visit.
Oh man, um, Ireland, I think. I've never gone out of the United States, really. I went to Canada for Niagara Falls. I don't know if that really counts, but I've never been out of the States. If I wanted to travel out of the States, I think going to Ireland would be pretty cool. One I
Nice,
like.
man. It's on my list of places. I've yet to make it there, but it's on my list for sure. So soon, my
Yeah,
boys really want to go there. So because my wife is my wife is from that island type region, let's just say.
okay.
So my boys also want to go to Italy though. For all the Italians out there, they definitely are like, we got to go, and I'm like, we're getting there, man. We're getting there. It's on the list. So
Maybe back to the
before
home.
like I get hate mail from all the Italian firefighters around the country being like, bro, I'm going to Ireland and not Italy. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, take your kids. Come on.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what
gonna
that's
do it. We're gonna
right.
get there.
That's good stuff.
All right. Which one are you watching more of? Football or football?
Oh, that one's easy. Baseball. I'm not a big
I
football
love
fan.
it. Love it. Love it. I'm done. First person to ever answer the question that way, and that's what we're going with. Baseball. No worries
Yeah,
at all, man. I got you.
I love baseball, man. It's a chess game, so I like baseball.
All right, last question. Best piece of advice you could give to your younger self.
Oh man. Um, I don't want to sound bitter or anything. The first thing that pops up in my head would be, put stock into people that are gonna that are gonna care, and don't put so much stock in
Sure.
people that aren't. I think, I spent a good portion of the early parts of my career putting stock into things when I should have been putting stock into my wife and my kids. So the time spent away from them to try and do these, training and I teach in different states and stuff, and um, I've had goals for my life that sometimes put those put the people I've cared about to the side and made them hold their own while I was gone, type deal. So try to put stock into people and try to put stock into things that are going to care back. That are going to appreciate the
Right.
time and effort that you put into it.
And it's such an important thing for us throughout our entire lives. And it's not saying that you're not going to maybe put some stock or time into something that doesn't matter, but it's how quickly you realize that, right? So you don't get stuck in that washer cycle of you're not doing the things you need to do for the people that matter because you're focused on something else, whether it may look cool, it may feel good in the moment or anything like that. And it's something we could all do better with. So that's great advice, man. I can't thank you enough, Kevin, for coming on today. This has been a great conversation, learning about Project Fire Buddies, and just looking forward to see what we can do in the future, man.
Yeah, Pip. Honestly, I can't thank you enough, man. Like, this has been a really cool experience. I don't talk about a lot of these things, anyways. So just to be able to talk about it is a cool thing, and I really appreciate it. I'm glad me pulling you aside at FDIC turning into this, because honestly, I think this is beneficial for our organization. It was beneficial for me, man. I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate it.
I was moving, dude, too. When you grabbed me, I was moving. I was already late to talk to someone that I really needed to talk to, and whatever. I'm happy I was late, right? And that's what
Yeah,
you do too. And you apologize to the person when you get there, and you don't get mad at people at FDIC when you're like, meet me at 1, and they're not there till 1:15 because the same type of thing might happen to them. So it's just one more thing that getting out there is great, and it's what I love doing. So it's why I love hosting this show and, again, moving it forward and trying to help out some other folks. So until next time, for the Size Up by National Fire Radio, this is Pip. And remember, what you do off the job matters.
National Fire Radio.